Hey everyone, we are live. Little pregame for the Toronto Maple Leafs and Florida Panthers. We're also going to talk some NHL stuff. So I think for me, I'm going to do some live coverage for games still. That's not going to change. But for tonight, it's going to be a bit of a preview, pregame vibe, catch up with the viewers. So if you guys are on the replay, get into the comments. If you're live here, get into the live chat. And please hit that subscribe, like, notification bell, that good stuff. But yeah, it's a big one. I mean, we're going to look at the standings as well, but there's honestly a lot at stake for a game at the start of December here. Like, if you go into the standings, it's actually Toronto and Florida next to each other. Right at the bottom. 25 and 25. If somebody said that at the start of the season, that the Leafs and Panthers would be at the bottom of the Atlantic Division, everyone would have called you crazy. But that's where we're at. Of course, injuries are a factor that needs to be considered in the context, right? The Leafs are missing some key players. The Panthers are missing even more key players. So, of course, the Leafs were without Matthews and Matthew Nyes there for a stretch. The Florida Panthers still without Barkov and Tkachuk. The Leafs are still without Chris Tanev, Brandon Carlo, and Anthony Stoller. So those are key. But as you guys get into the chat, please drop comments. KQ, Nick, TR, thanks for joining. So it's a big one, right? Like, the Red Wings and Sabres have more games played. Same with the Bruins. They're at 27 games played. So the deficit and the gap can be erased pretty quickly. Like, if you're going to assume that the Leafs could win, or the Panthers, for argument's sake, win the next two games, they're right there, a point back of the Boston Bruins for that second spot in the division. So it's so early. Everyone wants to panic, but all it takes is 2 wins, and you're right back into the conversation. So with the Metro, it's pretty close too. Like, the whole Eastern Conference in general is super close. That's why teams like Pittsburgh and teams like Philadelphia that were kind of supposed to be bad this year or not supposed to be as good, they're right into the race as well. So we'll see what happens. TR, it is Joseph Woll that is going to be starting. I'll find Mark Masters' tweet. But Craig Berube is going with Joseph Woll in the net. So it's going to be Woll. I don't know if Hildeby will even get a start this week, even though he played really well Saturday night. I think it really depends on what happens tonight. If Wool gets shelved or has a rough one, then I could see Hildeby playing. I believe they play Carolina Thursday night. But I think there's a real scenario where it's Wool for the next couple of games, and then you go from there. Oh, we lost the camera. I thought it was going to go to my full screen here. So, Simone Benoit is back in. That was one of the big ones. And here we go. So this is the expected lineup for the Leafs tonight. They're basically running it back from what they did against Pittsburgh Saturday night. The only difference is Benoit is in, Mermis is out. Me personally, I think there's no doubt about it. Phil Myers should not be in this lineup. It should be Benoit and Mermis on the bottom pair, or you put Benoit and Stetcher on the bottom pair, and you put Mermis with McCabe because Mermis can play a bit of a shutdown. So I'm definitely worried about Phil Myers. We'll see. Hopefully his physicality can kind of benefit the Leafs against a Panthers team that's missing key guys, but at the same time, they have some of those guys that are fast and can blow by Myers without a question. So hopefully Riley, Ekman Larson can hold their own, because we know those guys get criticized defensively, but who would you rather have on the ice, Riley and Ekman Larson or Phil Myers? I think that's without a doubt the veteran top guys that you want in. So Nyes, Matthews, Domi, Cowan, Tavares, Nylander have no problem with that top 6. Domi's just got to limit the mistakes, of course. Joshua, Waugh, McMahon, they got in on the scoring Saturday night. 3 goals across the board, 1 for each of those guys I just said. You probably want Lawton to start breaking out offensively, but he's been labeled as the 4th-line center, so you can only do so much when you're in that position. But Lorentz, Lawton, and Robertson is your listed 4th line. We have 40 already in the chat. Thank you guys for joining. If you are in here, please drop a comment. I want to talk with you guys. I'm going to be answering any questions. Debo says Marchie's going to be rolling tonight. Marchie should have been the Leafs' number 1 target last offseason. Well, he was, for sure. I think the Leafs had their eyes on Marchand, but Marchand returned to Florida and got quite the deal. Joshua, thanks for joining. Ella, thanks for joining. Gooch says, think the boys get bullied tonight, or do we see any emotion and pushback? Well, my only worry is, and this is why I'm kind of up and down with the Leafs in terms of results, is you blow a lead against Washington Friday night, and then you go after it Saturday night with a 7-2 victory. Well, it worries me because then you look at the next game. Does that mean that they step back a little bit? Or do they actually carry that result into a confidence boost and continue rolling? So I'm hoping it's the latter. I'm hoping that they continue and they take that 7-2 victory against Pittsburgh and make it into a confidence and make it into kind of a trend. So I hope that happens. I think we've seen it from the Leafs so many times this season where it's the roller coaster, where you see some positive signs and they revert right back to all the worries again. So, it's a test. It's a massive test these next few games, right? If you look at the Leafs schedule upcoming, they have a tough schedule. Do I think they could go at least 500? For sure. You'd hope that they do better than that considering the position they are in the standings. So they play the Panthers, of course, tonight. Thursday, they are in Carolina, as I mentioned. Saturday, they are back at home against the Montreal Canadiens, a massive divisional game. So you want at least 2 of the next 3 games for sure. And ideally, it's your 2 division teams. And then Monday, they play at home against Tampa. So those are big games. Like 3 of those 4 are divisional games. You want those victories for sure. So if we're talking about the Leafs' ideal results, you're definitely hoping for 3 of the next 4 victories. And if the one loss is Carolina, you're not crying about it too heavy. But these are big games, and these are big swing games because if you beat Florida, if you beat Montreal, you beat Tampa. Tampa, for me, is less of the target because they're actually running away a little bit with first place in the Atlantic as we're standing here today. So it's really looking at, can you beat Montreal? Can you beat Florida? Keep those guys out of the win column. That would be big. Light Beam says, sup, brother, go Leafs go. Thanks for being here. We got 55 in the chat. Thanks for being here, guys. Joshua says, keep an eye on Alex Tuck. What are you hearing, Joshua? Cats and Rats podcast says, I'm looking forward to this one. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Stinging Metal, thanks for being here. Jeremy says, if the Leafs miss the playoffs, is GM and coach gone? I'm sure the management conversation is going to be there, right? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they miss the playoffs. I think all is on the table for things like that. Let's see. George says, Leafs players are at fault if they don't make the playoffs. I mean, I'm with you to an extent. Like, I think I've kind of been on that mindset. I think there's some guys that are just not performing to the level we expect or that they should. Mdor, how's it going? Good to see ya. Let's see. Leafs have been linked to Tuck and Byram, Joshua says. Hey, let's go. We got 56 in the chat. If we can get 50 likes, that'd be great. I'm probably going to stick around here for a little pregame chat. I just wanted to hop on. I feel like there's no harm in me doing this here and there, especially like if my schedule is as busy as it is. If I can just hop on for a 30-minute chat, I'm going to do that. Why not? So I appreciate you guys being here. Jeremy says, Riley Cowan installers for Quinn Hughes. I don't think Vancouver does that, but I think a lot of Leaf fans would say yes, without a doubt, for sure, Jeremy. I think a lot of Leaf fans, though, are getting attached to Easton Cowan. Based on how he's played recently, he's scored now 3 goals this season. He's scored 2 goals recently. Obviously, that really nice goal against Columbus, which got them the 2 points, essentially, right? Like, Nylander scores the game winner, but you don't get that Cowan snipe top left corner. It looked like Jet Greaves was stopping everything in that game, so Cowan gets the tying goal, and, of course, Nylander gets the eventual game-winning goal. And then you look at that setup from Nylander to Cowan against Pittsburgh. Like, that is pretty iconic. That's pretty nuts. I think the fact that those guys are clicking right now, all you need is Austin Matthews and Matthew Nyes to start going on the top line, and you get that top two balanced approach again in the offense. I think the Leafs can start rocking and rolling. It's just really, you need your 69 goal scorer going. Like, you need it. You can't have Tavares and Nylander as your best players all season. It needs to be Austin Matthews and William Nylander in a lot of ways. John Tavares is 35 years old. Like, what he's done so far this season is way above expectations. So I think for the Toronto Maple Leafs, you're going to ride or die with Austin Matthews at the end of the day, because if Matthews is not going, I'm sorry, Nylander can't do it all himself to will this team into the playoffs. Like, Nylander's played most of the games. Yeah, he's missed 1 or 2 games here and there, but for the most part, Nylander's played more games than not, and it still hasn't been enough to have the Leafs in a solidified playoff spot. So Matthews needs to be healthy. Matthew Nyes needs to be healthy. These guys need to be healthy, and then maybe the Leafs get themselves back into that playoff conversation. But I'm still very optimistic, as you guys can tell, because I said this just on CB24 the other day. For a lot of Leaf fans, it's always been, and when I say always, I'm talking about in this current era of Toronto Maple Leafs hockey. So, like, basically since William Nylander's been drafted, this era of hockey in the last decade, it's been pretty comfortable in terms of playoff entry. And what I mean by that is, since the first year of the playoffs, that was a bit of the underdog year, after that, it's like been pretty comfortable in terms of the Leafs making the playoffs every year. That was like the one year where it was like the Leafs were playing desperate hockey and getting into a last playoff spot to play the top end Washington Capitals. Since then, the Leafs have been pretty comfortable in the understanding from fans and the organization they're going to make the playoffs every single year. This is the first year in a decade where the Toronto Maple Leafs are in doubt of making the playoffs. And in a weird way, I'm kind of okay with that, because in some ways it's actually more valuable to be playing the meaningful games and be desperate for victories in February and March and April than in November or even October. Do you want your team playing consistent and great hockey all year round? Of course. But it's kind of a different scenery and a different perspective now. The Leafs are in a spot where they're like, hey, we're not good enough right now. We're not playing the way we should, and we're needing to work towards something. So that's the optimism I'm having, not towards what they're doing right now and how they're playing right now, but more so because there's a lot of room for growth, and I think they have the style of players that can play that playoff style, and if they can get there in time, then it might be the perfect situation to go hot into the playoffs. So if they're right at a wildcard spot in January, I'm okay with that. Play meaningful hockey in 2026 and get right into the playoffs hot, or get right into the playoffs like a desperate team, not a team that's been comfortable or knowing they're going to be in the playoffs for months. Because even though most years they don't clinch until March or April, they're still pretty comfortable in knowing that they're likely going to make the playoffs. So that's kind of my mindset there. What's up, Tommy V? What's up, Leafs fan? What's up, Ernest? Ernest says, hey, John, how are you doing? Did you watch the Blue Jays against the Dodgers Game 7? Yes, I did. No good. John says, I don't want Cowan to get traded. Actually, he just started playing for Toronto. I know, Leafs fan. The offense against Pittsburgh just exploded, right? You got so many different players scoring. But yeah, guys, stick around. I'm only going to go like 10 more minutes. So if you guys are joining, now's your time to throw some questions at me or just throw your takes. I'll definitely read them. Jeremy says, is Nylander for Hughes a fair trade? Guessing Leafs would have to add. No. Definitely not. Definitely not. Jeremy, you have to understand the scenario there is Nylander's locked up long term. Quinn Hughes only has a year and a half under contract. The Canucks would have to add, with that in mind. It'd be different if they were under the same contract. If William Nylander was locked up long term at $11 million or 11 something, and Quinn Hughes was on that same contract, I agree with you. The Leafs would definitely have to add. But with the contract situation where Quinn Hughes is only locked up for another year and a half and Nylander's locked up long term, there's a lot more value on Nylander's situation. This season has been a roller coaster stinging. Prediction? Oh, man. I feel like with Wool in the net, the odds are pretty even, eh? It's pretty funny. Or the Panthers favored. Actually, no, the Panthers are favored. And I assume Bobrovsky's starting. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. I don't know if I missed something. But, yeah, I don't know. I feel like this, based on how the Leafs have been playing, it has a Panthers victory written on it. But if you're a Leaf fan, you're so desperate to see them win this game tonight. John Slattery, Nylander does have a no movement clause. He does. Nylander's contract is what, 11.5 on the dot? Let's see. Oh, why did I click on Puck GM? Rosters. Oh. There we go. There's the Leafs. Yeah, 11.5, full no movement clause. So just for the people that don't know this exists, this is puckpedia.ca. This is kind of the cap picture for the Leafs. So when you look at it, the Leafs are in a really good spot in terms of the next 3 years of cap picture, right? Like Matthew Nyes is on a really good contract. John Tavares is on a really good contract. And like the only really bad contract here is like Dakota Joshua as it stands right now. I think we'll see. I think if Dakota Joshua starts scoring and the Leafs don't have a successful season, you probably want to flip Dakota Joshua at the deadline or in the offseason. But we'll see. I think he could also be a playoff performer, which, hey, you know what? It's the same thing with Max Domi. It's the Domi effect. Sometimes guys just end up clicking in the playoffs, but don't click in the 82 games of the season. So that's also an interesting aspect. And then when you look at the defense group, I know Riley has a lot of his criticisms, but $7.5 million is like the price of a second or third defenseman in this cap era. So sure, would it be nice for the Leafs to have like a top end elite or generational type defenseman? Of course, but they don't. So they basically have like 3 number 2 defensemen and like 2 number 3 or 4. Like Oliver Ekman-Larsson, it depends what you get from him on a game night, but he's been playing really well offensively, and I can get past his defensive like deficiencies when he's only making $3.5 million. And I think that's the big thing that drives people nuts with Morgan Riley and less with OEL is making $4 million less. So I understand that. I definitely do. But in terms of the Leafs defense cap picture, it's pretty good. So do the Leafs have a lot of cap space? No, they don't. But they also have top-end players that a lot of other teams do not have. So, again, I'm choosing the optimistic route because I think they're 1 or 2 pieces away from being a real contender. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to make the playoffs. Like, I think they're good enough to be in the playoffs. I think if anyone looks at the Toronto Maple Leafs and just straight up says they suck or they should not be a playoff team, I think they're napping. I think they're naive, and I also think they're just being a Leaf hater. Because I think the best example is this. So many Boston Bruins fans were laughing and thinking that Fraser Minton as an ideal trade chip for the Leafs was a joke. I saw so many comments, and I could probably pull up some receipts of Bruins fans like dogging on Fraser Minton and like saying he was an overrated asset and laughing at the Leafs traded down to draft Fraser Minton. I saw so many of that comments. Now, Boston Bruins fans are saying Fraser Minton's a future Selke winner. So my point is sometimes the Leaf hate goggles are so strong with some fans because you look at Austin Matthews, William Nylander, Matthew Knies, John Tavares. A lot of teams and a lot of fan bases would love to have those 4 guys. Would love to have those 4 guys as their top 4 players. So sure, the depth for the Leafs is lacking in some areas, but it's definitely a positive sign that you got goals from Bobby McMahon, Nick Waugh, Dakota Joshua, and Nick Robertson Saturday night. If that can continue, if they can get more depth scoring, that's a huge positive sign for this team, and they've definitely got to figure out a different way to defend. It also doesn't help that you're missing Chris Tanev and Brandon Carlo, right? Those are 2 big pieces to this team. Whatever you want to say about Brandon Carlo and him not being what, I don't know, like, I guess what was advertised, it's still 2 big pieces on this team. It's 2 big pieces on the penalty kill. It's 2 big pieces in the matchup game. Phil Myers is playing hockey for the Toronto Maple Leafs because Brandon Carlo and Chris Tanev are not healthy. If Chris Tanev and Brandon Carlo are healthy, you have one of the more complete defense groups in the Eastern Conference. Maybe it's not top heavy, but like those top 5 guys, Riley, McCabe, Tanev, Ekman-Larsson, and Carlo, on a Stanley Cup winning team are a really good 3 or 4. Like really good second pair guys. So you basically have like 4 or 5 really good second pair guys. You're just missing the elite generational guy, which if you go through the league, there's not that many of them. There's probably somewhere between 15 to 20 of those guys. So that's kind of my argument for some fans. All right, 3 more minutes, guys. I'm going to hop off. Again, I know it was a short, 30 or 25-minute stream, but just wanted to do a little bit of a pregame just to kind of go over it. Patrick says Minton's a career 3rd liner. I think he has a ceiling to be a good 2nd liner. We'll see. If he can be offensive, if he can be like a 50-point guy, I think his defensive strengths and his overall game can make him a 2nd-line center. But, it depends on his offensive output. But if he can put up 50-plus points, I think he can be there. What's up, Jeff in the zone? Thanks for being here. Hey, Daniel. Happy Tuesday. But yeah, guys, if you haven't yet, please subscribe. Hit that like button. I hope anyone that's watching this stream right now has subscribed. If you haven't yet, give the channel a chance. It's free to subscribe. And hit that like button and always comment. I just recorded a 1-hour episode that I'll split into a few videos, just like I did with Marco. I did it with Anthony this time, the prospect Don. So I'm going to try to do that more weekly, guys. Is basically every week I have one guest on. We cover at least 3 to 4 different topics, and then I cut them up into different videos and I post on the channel. So you guys will be seeing that more, especially from different people that cover different teams. So Marco covers the Montreal Canadiens. We did some stuff on that. Anthony covers everything, but he's a Blackhawks fan, so we did a lot of Blackhawks stuff. If you guys have any suggestions on Leaf-centric people that you want me to bring on, like Leafs reporters or analysts, I can definitely do that. Honestly, I've actually connected with so many different people. It's just finding the time to actually sit down and record it. So I'm going to try to, with my time management, create more time to do that. So I appreciate all of you guys. If you could, drop your predictions for tonight's game and give me your goal scorer before I hop off. I think it's somewhere between a 4-3 and a 5-2 hockey game. I hope it's the Leafs' way, but I would not be surprised if the Panthers get one. I do think Matthew Knies loves playing down in Florida, more specifically Tampa, but he loves playing down in Florida. So I would not be surprised to see a Matthew Knies goal tonight. I think when you look at the goal scoring recently, you see what Nylander's been doing. You see John Tavares. I would not be surprised if Tavares scores tonight. He also likes scoring down in Florida, but I think Matthew just got one. So if he gets hot, great. But I think Matthew Knies could be due for one. And then on the defense side, I think Morgan Rielly and Oliver Ekman-Larsson have chipped in back-to-back games here. Rielly scored against Washington and Oliver Ekman-Larsson scored against Pittsburgh. So we'll keep an eye on if that streak can continue. I also believe Oliver Ekman-Larsson's on the brink of breaking a defense record in terms of a point streak with the Leafs. I think it's I don't know if he's at 10 games or over 10 games, but that's a storyline as well. OEL's been on a bit of a point streak here, so we'll see what happens. Patrick says 3-1 Leafs. Victor says 6-4 Leafs. Welcome, Victor. I don't know if I've seen you in the chat here. Leafs fan says 5-3 Leafs. Yeah, I think it's either around like a 10 or something point streak for OEL. Carzy says 4-3 OT Florida. Yeah, Leafs fan. OEL has been great offensively for sure. Tyler Toffoli would be interesting, Joshua, as a target for Toronto. It depends on what they would give up, but maybe like some picks and Nick Robertson. But here's the thing. Nick Robertson's been putting up some points, so it's going to be interesting. Like, just to pull up the Leaf stats here. Like, Nick Robertson's 7th in team points was 7. If you guys see here. And Riley and OEL have 20 on the defensive side. Where's the goals here? And if you look at the goals, Tavares at the top with 12. Nick Robertson tied 4th with 6 goals. So Tavares, Nylander, Matthews. And here's the thing. There's a lot of criticism around Matthews. But the fact that he missed that time and he still has 10 goals, I think Matthews could easily surpass 40 goals still this season. I still think he could get in around 40 or 50. So we'll keep an eye on that. But I think Tavares at 12 goals, Nylander at 11, Matthews at 10. That's not super far off from what I expected. You probably, if you made the prediction before the season, you probably thought Matthews and Tavares would be flipped. And then Matthew Nyes, Robertson, McMahon. The big conversation is, like, some of the guys that Trey Living acquired this offseason are just not cutting it, right? Joshua's not even on this list because I think he has, 2 goals? Machelli has 4. It's just not cutting it. Where's Nick Waugh? Where's Nick Waugh? He's got, 1 or 2 goals? I think Nick Waugh, he has 2. So that's just not up to the standard. And there's also guys that are just horribly on the defensive side, like Max Domi, we're not going to do plus minus as like an analysis point, but Max Domi's a -13. That's crazy. So, anyways, that's a massive reference point because Domi, eye test wise, has also been horribly defensively. So, we'll see what happens the rest of the way. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the game tonight. I'll be live tweeting, so if you want to follow me on Hot Take Hockey or at John Viveiros _, I appreciate it. And I don't know what Victor's saying, but anyways, appreciate you guys. Patrick, Marchessault could be a target, but there's been a lot of conversation that Nashville is not going to trade a guy like Marchessault to a market that has like high tax, because like apparently that's why maybe he liked Nashville. So Victor. Anyways, Victor, I hope you subscribed if you haven't yet. We have 91 in the chat, so it's almost like I should stick around. But anyways, I hope you guys hit that subscribe button, hit that like, and yeah, I appreciate you guys big time. I'll answer a few more questions. Do I think the Leafs will make a comeback? Yeah, Kabook. I like I said, I think I'm positive on the fact that the Leafs have so much room for growth here, and I would rather them play desperate hockey in the spring. So if they can continue just staying, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 points away from a wildcard spot, and then by January they're really starting to cook, I think I'm okay with that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because I think with the Leafs, I said this earlier in the stream, the last 4, 5, 6 years, they've been comfortable. Like, fans have been comfortable that every year we're going to make playoffs. So I think this is the first year where some fans are like, geez, it might not actually happen. But I think Leaf fans are being reminded that the season is not always smooth sailing. There's going to be the ups and downs. There's not just the downs in October. Sometimes there's downs in November, December, January. So I think all of that comes with it. But I think there's a lot of time left in the season, and some fans forget that. Like, some of the best teams in the past decade, like in terms of winning Stanley Cups, go on at least one winning streak. The Leafs have not gone on a winning streak yet. So if they can get like 6, 7, 8 wins in a row, again, maybe that's not likely, but if they can do something like that, they're right back at the top and different conversation. So we'll see what happens. Again, guys, subscribe, like, comment, notification bell. I appreciate you guys. I'm going to be watching the Leaf game and the Panthers game tonight, so Leafs Panthers 7:30. Puck drop should be in about 35 minutes. So if you guys haven't yet, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, John Viveiros _. My last name is Viveiros. So follow me there, and I'll be live tweeting on Twitter or on X if you guys want to reply and shoot the shit back and forth. All right, cool. All right, go Leafs, go. Hopefully a dub tonight. We'll see. Have a great night.